Back in 2013, I was sitting at home relaxing when I got a phone call from a Canadian number that I didn't readily recognize. Hello? Hello, John? Or hello, Carolyn? This is John Hart from the 1st Special Service Force Association. I have some news for you. Are you sitting down? Now, what's the first thing you think of when you get a phone call out of the blue from someone you haven't heard from in forever? Who died? Yes. I wanted to let you know, we found your dad's dog tag. He was met with silence from my end of the phone. Hello, Carolyn? Are you still there? Let me explain. The 1st Special Service Force was an elite unit that was put together during World War II. It was a tactical force of 1,800 strong, and it was the first time in history that 2 countries came together to fight as one cohesive unit. Half of the men were from Canada, and the other half were from the United States. My father was an original member of the 1st Special Service Force, and he was from Canada. They were activated on July 20th, 1942. Their training site was at Fort William Henry Harrison in Helena, Montana, my hometown. They came together and were sent into battles that were seemingly impenetrable. They were a secret mission. No one was supposed to know about them. They were dubbed the Black Devils by the Germans because they often struck at night, and they wore shoe polish on their face as camouflage. Many times before they would go into battle, the men would remove their dog tags, hand them to one of the members of the team, and he would put them in a duffel bag and bury them or hide them somewhere to be retrieved later, in case the men were caught and captured or possibly killed, because no one was supposed to know who they were. Back to John. John, I don't understand. He explained he'd received a phone call from Luciano Bucci, an Italian member of the 1st Special Service Force. Now, Luciano had been looking at Facebook one day, and he saw a post from another gentleman in Italy. He had found an American dog tag near the Mussolini Canal, and he was trying to find a family member to give that dog tag to. Luciano recognized the name. He in turn called John because John still had my contact information, and John called me. In 2010, I traveled with the families of the 1st Special Service Force on a trip called Footsteps of the 1st Special Service Force. And we went to Italy and to France and went to many of the battlegrounds where our fathers or our grandfathers or our uncles had fought. Luciano was on that trip, along with his good friend Stefano. Luciano knew the importance of returning the dog tag, so he got in touch with John. I was dumbfounded, to say the least. They had taken the dog tag and they put it in a lovely shadow box with a picture of our father, not a very flattering picture, and presented it at the reunion in Canada in 2013. I could not be at that reunion. But I recall Luciano and Stefano. On the trip in 2010, we visited a small museum called the Winterline. It was in the basement of an Italian village in one of the villages that we went to. And it was owned by Luciano and his good friend Stefano. And together, They put that museum with all the artifacts in honor of the 1st Special Service Force. You see, they grew up on the stories that were passed down through their families of how their villages were liberated during World War II by the 1st Special Service Force. And many of the artifacts in that museum were ones that they found on the very hillsides that they played as children. Some of the artifacts they purchased with their own money, with their own sweat, with their own love and honor. They put together that museum. And during that trip in 2010, we crossed the Mussolini Canal many times. Well, the next reunion was going to be in 2014 in Helena, Montana, and I was determined to make it there. So I got to go to that reunion. And when I found out about the dog tag, I called each of my siblings, one by one, and I told them of the joy and the news of finding our dad's dog tag. Together, we decided that not one of us should be the holder of that dog tag. You see, there were 7 children from the Pelletier family, so my dad did make it home. And we didn't want just one of us to hold it, so we decided we were going to give it to the Montana Military Museum, which resides at Fort William Henry Harrison in Helena, Montana. At that reunion, my sister Jeannie and her husband Wayne, her daughter Shelley, her grandson Jake were in attendance. Our brother Ray and his wife Lou were also in attendance. And a good family friend who'd known my parents for many years, Sharon, was there. Our sisters Kathy and Priscilla were unable to make it. And our brothers David and Daniel had already passed away. I also got the great honor of being the MC at that reunion. So with my siblings and I, we put together a new shadow box with a much better picture of our dad. And we presented it to Colonel Ray Reed, the proprietor of the Montana Military Museum in Helena. We were overwhelmed with joy, and we had so much gratitude for how that dog tag was returned to us some 70 years after it had been lost. And we didn't even know it had been lost. There have been a lot of books and even a movie that was done about the 1st Special Service Force called The Devil's Brigade. It came out in 1968. It's a very Hollywood version of the 1st Special Service Force history, but I still enjoy watching it. We owe a debt of gratitude to Luciano and Stefano for getting the dog tag to John Hart, who's an organizer of these trips to France and Italy. I've been on 2 of them and they've been wonderful. And to all the members of the 1st Special Service Force who worked so hard to get that dog tag back to the rightful family. You can cue. These are just some of the books that have been written about the 1st Special Service Force. Some signatures from some of my dad's comrades that I retrieved at one of the reunions. The Super Commandos book is a very fabulous book. And the movie, The Devil's Brigade. If you have an opportunity, watch it. This is the shadow box that we presented to Colonel Ray Reed at that reunion in 2014. Thank you.